Hello and welcome to Blog Tornado. How are you? And today we're gonna quickly go through understanding some of the things that you might wanna look for when you trying to figure out whether the UFO footage you're looking at is authentic or not. And the reason I would like to talk about this particular footage is if you have some experience with 3D animation and motion tracking software, you should able to understand that this footage would be extremely hard to fake. And for the reason being, like I said, a person who would try to fake it, they would prefer to have a stable background that doesn't move much. However, in this video, what gives it away that it could be authentic UFO is because it sort of comes into a shot. But not just that, most footage that they will try to replicate a fake UFO scene would be steady still, without moving camera above or sideways or to the right or up or down. Most likely, they will try to keep a stable footage. But in this case, the actual UFO comes towards the actual camera and actually above the camera, which is extremely difficult to track such image, especially when you're against the clouds, a blue sky pretty much. And as you know, if you're familiar with any of the software, motion tracking is very bad when there's nothing to lock onto. There has to be some kind of clear, high detailed points inside footage itself so the motion tracking can track it. But if you're gonna go against the blue sky, it's very difficult for unless some kind of professional movie studio has been special effects studio has been behind this footage. And another thing is that it's incredible in this particular footage. And please stay with me all the way so I can explain to you why, and then you can check the footage for yourself and see what you think. Is basically able to go behind the actual bushes or trees, behind the branches, listen to this video, behind the branches, and the amount of work to mask out the actual parts where UFO crosses the branches. You will literally have to erase what's behind the branch so the UFO looks like it's actually behind the branches. But and as you know, trying to accomplish something like that is it's a lot of work to mask out every single frame, and so many branches in between that go past the cross between a UFO and the actual branch. It's very difficult to mask out something like that. At least it requires a lot of work. So and again, like I said, and this and another thing you might want to look for when the camera doesn't align properly with the actual CG, it's not centered. So you might be a little bit off the character, or UFO might be a little bit off to the left or to the right, and it's not centered, and then you can tell that it wasn't synchronized properly. It should be positioned properly with the CGI to begin with, but it wasn't, so it gives it away that it was actually CG. But in this particular footage, what's so amazing is that it's always centered, and whenever a person, the camera is trying to catch up to the UFO rather than UFO catch up to the camera. So, and that's what usually should happen in real life. And like I said, some footage on YouTube, which is a lot, and it just doesn't, the camera moves first and then the UFO moves with it, which is not the way it should be. So, but this footage seems so flawless in so many ways that if you're a CG artist, you will understand what I mean. It's difficult to produce such a stabilized image without any flaws, which seems to me there's no flaws. The only thing I can say about this particular video And I hope you agree with me. You can comment below. Please comment below if you think you see something that might not be adding up there. So what I think is the only thing that I might think it might not be authentic, it's the sound that once the UFO passes above the camera, you can hear the sound at the back, and it sounds very sci-fi. I mean, the whole footage looks like sci-fi, but I'm just saying it sounds very synthesizer-like there's a delay. The delay part is what I don't understand. Why would there be some echo, like a huge echo? I mean, there's nothing there that could echo the sound because it's so close to the camera, unless you're in some kind of a place where there's a lot of mountains or between the walls or something, or canyon where you can hear the echo. But it seems like there's no mountains around, and why would there be such a delay of echo sound? So that's the only thing I think this footage might not be authentic, as much as I want to believe. But I mean, I believe that at least 80% of this footage seems to be authentic, or even 90. My opinion on the sound is only 10% of that. But the whole, like I explained, it's so difficult to motion track anything that comes towards the camera and goes above the camera. I mean, when you do CGI, you don't have much choice to, not because of the CGI software, but because of motion tracking software. I mean, it's very difficult to lock and position the actual CGI properly when you're moving camera too much. And in this case, it's literally, pointing up into the sky, which is another thing that it's impossible to track. Is the actual background is one color. It's pretty much blue. So there's nothing there to track. And this is why I think this, and then again, going behind the branches of the tree. And that to me is just incredible footage. I haven't come across any kind of footage that would be, except the orbs footage and so forth, that would convince me that is real. And I am a witness of a UFO. I've seen orbs before, and it's nothing like a UFO vehicle or anything like that, but it's a glowing light that hovers in the air, and you can read more about it in blogtornado.com in UFO section, in the UFO and orb phenomena, and you can see for yourself what I'm talking about. But I will leave another link down below, so I don't leave you empty-handed without any kind of evidence, which again, Blog Tornado tries to focus on real things and not fake UFO videos. That's why I made this video, so you understand if you're wasting your time or not. As much as possibly I can help you, but there's a link below. It's a video from Massachusetts, orbs and similarities to what I saw in that video, and my experience. There's a lot of similarities here, and cannot be coincidence, because this person doesn't know me, I don't know them. Happened in 2 different times. Happened long time ago with me, and this footage sort of came maybe, I don't know how many years ago. But what I've seen is maybe 20 years, 25 years ago. So there's no relation to this channel in any kind of way. So, but the things that are happening there, such as color orange that orbs are emitting, they like to fly in straight formation. Also, they hover in the air still without making any sound. And that's another way of, but more significant, if anything, it's the multiplying. If you ever see some footage with orbs that actually multiply, coming out of each other, separating or something like that, not next to it, but right from the actual orb, that most likely it's authentic footage, because I've seen that happen. There wasn't one orb, and then 2 more came out of that middle orb, and they just steady, silent kind of way that, nothing can replicate that, or, no vehicles like that are made those days to make it, flying vehicles to make it look like that. and no drones in those days, 30 years ago or so. But those are some of the things to look at when you look at the footage, and that's why I talk about this particular footage. It's very difficult to tell if this footage is actually authentic or not, but we could have a real footage on our hands. It's just a footage. You cannot say if it's real or not, but I'm just pointing on many, like at least I think 90% of this footage is real. But for the first time, perhaps you can see a real UFO. And if you follow Betty and Barney Hill's story, the UFO abduction that happened in 1961 in New Hampshire, one of the most widely publicized UFO stories, first UFO stories in States. They show she talks about how big some of the UFOs are that she saw, besides the one she had experienced, which she also talked about other UFOs, and she just says they're just maybe 2-3 feet long, wide, and this in diameter, and this particular footage shows such a UFO. So it might not be like super huge, might be actually smaller. And she explains that if they do get, they can combine themselves, smaller UFOs, they can combine themselves into a bigger UFO, or they can separate, which could explain why this UFO is such size. So either way, I personally think it's an authentic video. So please comment below what you think. Maybe you can detect something that is not that is fake about this footage. Like I said, for me it's difficult to tell. Maybe it would be easier for you. I don't know if you're into CG, if you're a CG artist. But I explain why this footage would be authentic in my opinion. And again, if it is, it's very exciting to say the least, because it's one of the most clearest UFO footage I ever seen, at least for a few seconds. And it also shows 3 lights that many people talk about, that you can see sometimes on a lot of UFO videos on YouTube, like a triangle. So obviously when it's dark, you're gonna see the 3 lights, but you're not gonna be able to see the actual craft itself. And the possibility is that UFOs are capable of distorting space and time. And according to Bob Lazar, if you follow his story, he talks about what happens if you're actually underneath the UFO, which I know sounds so crazy, but in theory it could be true. So what happens if you are underneath the UFO? You cannot see this. You cannot see the actual UFO, because the actual light bends, and you're able to see behind it because it goes around the UFO. So in order for you to see something, you need the light to get into your eyes. But if it goes around the UFO, then you're actually seeing what's behind the UFO, not the actual UFO itself. So the vision goes around the UFO. Just like in real life, people are saying that we're able to see the stars behind the sun because the actual light goes around the sun, and therefore we're able to see behind the actual sun itself, the stars. And again, he talks about how you can see behind the UFO, but you do have to be in a certain spot. Like, for sure, if you're underneath the UFO, you won't be able to see the UFO because of, again, as I explained, because of the light. But either way, this footage, I think it's 90% at least authentic, to my opinion, and I will try to, if I find any more UFO videos like that, I will definitely point it out, because it's worth pointing out if it's authentic. So I hope you enjoyed this particular video, and also check out my Bob Lazar Zeta Reticuli 2 Decoded video, and where I talk about some kind of connection that all this story might tie in, especially Bob Lazar's story, because why this all these three situations that I talk about, which I provided the link below in that video, they all have one thing in common, which is they talk about zeta reticuli, okay? And that's a star, that's a planet that supposedly these aliens are from. That's actually 39 light years away, but it's been mentioned in Bob Lazar's story, it's been mentioned in Barney's and Betty Hill's story, and also on Ivan 0135 channel, okay? Now, Ivan 0135 is someone who uploaded supposedly authentic UFO footage in 2011, and people are wanting more because it says there, I think it's tape 6 or 5. So we want to know where the rest of the tapes that could prove that those aliens are actually from Zeta Reticuli, because in Barney and Betty Hill's story, okay, they talk about that. They talk about black suits that aliens supposed to wear. They wear, and this footage from Ivan's channel also shows aliens with black suits. So when Barney Hill was under hypnosis, he talks about that aliens actually wore black uniforms. So now, is this footage authentic? If you watch Betty Hill in the interview, she was actually conscious when she was communicating with aliens. I don't think Barney was, but she was fully conscious, and she remembers a lot of details, exactly what was going on. And I don't think older women like her in her age can lie flawlessly with an interview that is a few hours long, 3 hours or so long. I mean, without showing any unusual behavior. I mean, you have to understand it. You have to be a professional to do that, and that's just highly unlikely that you're not going to break a sweat eventually at some point. And exactly, if you followed Bob Lazar's story too, I mean, he just talks flawlessly of what happened. I mean, just for one thing, it's very difficult to process so much data at once with flawless talking, okay? There's got to be some kind of mental block or some kind of unusual behavior that happens during the interview when all these questions are asked from every angle. They've been throwing at you from every angle, and you flawlessly answering them. You just have to be a genius to lie like that. I mean, it's difficult to lie like that for so long. And I mean, he doesn't stutter or think too long, or what's he gonna say, or rapid eye movement, or all kinds of sweating, all kinds of signs that person might be lying. But in his case, he's flawless, answering every single question. And how can you do that under such pressure? He was on Joe Rogan's show with 6 million people of audience. I mean, it's difficult to lie under such pressure flawlessly. I mean, flawlessly. It's very difficult to do that. So we must assume that he might be telling us truth. However, I did make a video regarding Bob Lazar about 6, and I start from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and up. And every time I made a video, I came to another question, another question, another question. It just got deeper, deeper, and deeper, okay? So eventually, I end up at this point where he mentioned Zeta Reticuli, and I kind of make a swing in different direction now because of, and I think it's video 5 and 6, I talk about Zeta Reticuli. So I kind of turned that direction because, again, he mentioned that. And like I told you, Barney and Betty Hill story in 1961, they talk about Zeta Reticuli. These aliens were from Zeta Reticuli. And you might want to analyze her behavior during the interview, and you'll find out what I'm talking about. It's just flawless information she's giving out. And it's so interesting. I mean, this has got to be more interesting than any sci-fi movie out there, as far as I'm concerned. So please check out, and yeah, I make videos every day, every second day, every third day. There's going to be a video waiting for you for sure. If you subscribe, that would be great. Down at the bottom right, or give it a thumbs up. Hit that notification button in case you want to hear more of what I digged out, okay? Basically looking for some serious, hardcore evidence that aliens do exist, since I'm a witness myself, and I'm trying to hunt out as much as truth. I don't believe hardly any stories out there unless I have some kind of proof, even though I'm a witness. So you have to understand what this channel is all about, okay? Yeah, that's about it. And I would like to appreciate if you stayed all the way up until now. I talk so long. I know I do that in all of my videos, but I'm trying to bring up some points if you follow my talk. So again, I do appreciate it if you stayed all the way with me so far. I realize that you're watching my channel, so I do appreciate it. Thank you. And please come back to see what's new, okay? And we'll see what exciting things we can find out. I know I sound like a broken record, but what I try to do is try to get to the truth. And what's the point of watching fake YouTube videos? That's more entertainment rather than truth, okay? So that's what I'm trying to concentrate here on Block Tornado. So please do comment below so I know that you're also interested in truth rather than entertainment. And yeah, and that will be great. Thanks again for following this show, and I will talk to you then. Thank you. Peace.